So we're here today to talk about human error and operational discipline. Now, it's no secret that human error is a constant source of frustration for a lot of organizations. But unfortunately, a lot of those same organizations see human error as something very focused towards the worksite. If employees could only just do the right thing. We found at Pegasus, and in particularly working and partnering with Marcus Evans, is that human error is often not really a worksite problem at all, but is owned not by the bottom half of the organization, but by the top half. Now, it seems like workers have overconfidence, they take shortcuts and risks, they don't routinely follow policies and procedures, and guess what? We end up blaming the guys at the worksite doing the work. But our studies and our research shows us time and time again, over and over, that this is not a worksite problem. It has a lot to do with how behaviors are recognized, rewarded, and reinforced. And guess what? That is a top half organization problem. In other words, the guy at the front line with the welding torch didn't invent your whole operating culture. So one of the interesting things we found in hosting this course on managing human error and operational discipline is almost all the attendees arrive looking for the silver bullet. They want the fix that's going to convert their frontline employees to always doing the right thing, always following policies and procedures, and getting the operating culture where they want it. Unfortunately, by about the midpoint of the course, what they're realizing is that the problem is not owned at the worksite, but it's actually owned in part by the very people attending the course. Boy, does that ever make a few people look a little embarrassed. However, we give them the tools, we give them the techniques, we give them the insight, so that by the time they leave, they're fired up, they're ready to go, and they go back to their respective organizations and they wait to see the step change take effect. So one of the common questions we get, pretty much at about halfway stage on the course, is that the attendees want to know how they can engage their top managers, the CEOs and the C-suite, and sometimes even their whole boards of directors, to actually become more engaged. And one of the first things that we tell them is they need to collect information and data. They need to be able to present a picture of performance that gives everyone a better understanding of what's really taking place at the worksite. That way, they can predict what comes next. There's no surprises to the organization, there's no embarrassed looks, and there's no egg on faces. At the outset of this course, one of the first things we do is get to know our participants. We get to know the challenges and difficulties that a lot of the attendees are immediately facing. And one of the first things they come across is that everything looks fine, performance is going great, downtime is very little, morale seems to be pretty good, everything is going just fine. And then all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, everything falls off the cliff. And before they know where they are, they've got all kinds of issues going on surrounding injuries and downtime and reputational impact and unforeseen, unprepared additional costs. And as a result of that, one of the first things they learn is that all too often they're measuring and managing performance not only by the wrong metrics, but also in terms of what organizations react to, it's also often the exact wrong stuff. The problem being that every time they react, they make the situation worse. In other words, the harder they try, the worse it gets. It's no secret that a lot of organizations struggle with human error, and in particular, managing non-compliant behaviors. And today, there's lots and lots of consultancies who work in this space. However, there's very few that actually have real-world experience. And one of the things that separates Pegasus from many other consultancies, even though it's quite a small boutique company, is that we have lots and lots of real-world experience, and our tools are designed for practical use by everyone in the organization. That's one of the reasons I think that Marcus Evans sought Pegasus out to provide this kind of training. Even though Pegasus is a small boutique consultancy, in partnering with Marcus Evans, what we're enabled to do is have the global reach and touch any organization anywhere in the world. That means whether you're in New York, London, Dubai, or even Singapore, you always have access to Marcus Evans training events, and in particular, human error and operational discipline.